in Srila Prabhupada's quarters that are being presented here in the slideshow and from personal interviews from devotees. So we'll start. The doorway to Srila Prabhupada's quarters is to the back there if no one has ever been here. I've given tours in Srila Prabhupada's quarters before, and so many devotees said, well, it was so packed, I couldn't get in and see, or I couldn't hear. So this is an opportunity that we can all see everything that you would see in Srila Prabhupada's quarters and hear the pastimes and the stories that go along with the articles there. So since 1970, the rooms upstairs have been the Los Angeles residential quarters of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada acquired this property, it was on the anniversary day, the Advent day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati on February 26, 1970. And the devotees were having a feast honoring Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati at the La Cienega Temple. And word came that escrow had closed and the building was now in possession of ISKCON. And the keys were given, and Srila Prabhupada had the devotees bring the pots, plates, everything for the feast for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the preparations, and they came here and had the feast. They transported the whole feast here. So this was very momentous for Srila Prabhupada, this building. It's very historical for us as being a very large center. Srila Prabhupada could have quarters here. It provided nice facility for the devotees. And Srila Prabhupada says, for ourselves, we're prepared to live anywhere. But such a nice place would give us the opportunity to invite gentlemen to come and learn about this Krishna consciousness. So now we'll continue up to Srila Prabhupada's quarters. This is a landing that you see leading up to the stairs to Srila Prabhupada's quarters. On the wall, the first picture is a poster that was seen in a lot of our temples, probably one of the first posters that of Srila Prabhupada. I know when I joined in San Francisco, this was on the wall and in the San Francisco temple. Here we have the book cover for Srila Prabhupada's original books that came here that he brought with him on the Jaladuta. You can see that his signature is in the lower left-hand corner. And then there's also a book stamp in the lower right corner that says Tridandi A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. There's a nice, Srila Prabhupada designed the book cover. It was, the artwork was executed by a Bengali artist named Salit. And since the design is Srila Prabhupada's, he was in charge of the script, the biography that went along with it. And I'll read it because this is Srila Prabhupada's adventure into and his preparation to come here to the United States to give us everything that we have now. And he speaks of himself. Abhay Chirande, a young 26-year-old manager of a big business firm in Calcutta, met His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada in 1922. His Divine Grace liked this educated young man and injected in him the idea for preaching Lord Chaitanya's message all over the world. He, our Srila Prabhupada, was formally initiated in 1933 in Allahabad, where Abhay Charan was doing his own business. In 1936, just a fortnight before His Divine Grace, meaning Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, his departure from this mortal world, he wrote one letter dated 13/12/36, December 13th, 1936, to Abhay Babu, in the same spirit as the beginning in 1922. Abai Babu was specifically ordered to take up the work through the medium of English language. In pursuance of the order of his spiritual masters, Abai Chirande started an English fortnightly magazine, Back to Godhead magazine, in 1944. The Vaishnava Society recognized him as Bhaktivedanta in 1947. In 1950, he left Calcutta to live apart from his family life, wife, sons, daughter, grandsons, and in 1954 became Vanaprasth, completely retired from family life. In 1959, he took sannyas, and since then he is known as A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, fully engaged in the discharge of responsibility ordered by his spiritual master, although he is now 68 years of age. Written in 1964. 1 year later, Srila Prabhupada would board the Jaladuta boat and come to the United States. This is a Life magazine article. I remember this. This was dated 1968. It was called The Year of the Guru. There were other gurus that were featured in this article also, but the author of the article was mostly impressed with the devotees. She highlighted a lot of the aspects of going to the 26 Second Avenue Temple in New York, and printed the whole Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as we continue up the stairwell, the first frame that we come to is the Krishna Conscious Comes West, the Avalon Ballroom. And this was, the devotees had gone on to San Francisco preparing the way for Srila Prabhupada to come to San Francisco, and they started a temple. The flyer was designed by Harvey Cohen, later to become Hari Das, and it reads, Krishna Consciousness Comes West, A. Swami Bhaktivedanta, Allen Ginsberg, The Grateful Dead, Moby Grape, and Big Brother with Janis Joplin and the holding company. Maha Mantra Rock Dance, the Mantra Rock Dance, and the admission was $2.50. Bring cushions, drums, bells, and cymbals, and the proceeds were to go to the Radha Krishna Temple in San Francisco. Srila Prabhupada attended this, and when he came at the beginning, and he made a comment that this is no place for a brahmachari. It was a wild hippie event, you can imagine. So here we have the Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan party. That was actually here, the altar section here in the temple. What you're sitting in now, there were pews. This was the altar. This section here was already designated as the altar part. And the devotees kept the pews for a while, and after Sunday feast, they would come here and have rocking guitar kirtans. It was quite an event, the kirtans that went on here after the Sunday feast. And Srila Prabhupada lectured from here also. There was a pulpit here, and this was the central picture on the altar. And here's some early pictures of the temple, the outside, and this picture that's on the far right. The pictures, the pews, you might not be able to make them out. They're pews, and Srila Prabhupada in the center, in the bottom center before he left for Tokyo. This is a picture of Srila Prabhupada reading in his garden. If some of you have never visited Srila Prabhupada's garden, that's also a destination here. As we continue up the stairwell, there's some albums that were produced by the devotees. The Happening album being the first album that was produced. There was a man named Alan Coleman who heard of Srila Prabhupada from the East Village Other, which was a magazine that was distributed on the streets. And he saw the devotees in Thompson Square Park. After reading the article, he went and saw the devotees, and he thought that this would be a nice idea because his sort of album that he did, it was called Spoken Word. He would have spoken word on one side and maybe music on the other. This was a different kind of format for an album at that time. He had a recording of Martin Luther King. He had Timothy Leary, Malcolm X. And he thought that it would be a nice idea for the devotees to chant on one side, and then there would be an explanation of the Maha Mantra on the other side. And this is the very famous lecture that you've probably heard with Srila Prabhupada that starts out, this transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the sublime method of reviving our Krishna conscious. The Beatles got a copy of this. There's George Harrison gives accounts that they got a copy and didn't stop chanting for days. This also prompted the production of Bhagavad Gita, because one person that ordered a copy of this album worked at Macmillan. And Brahmananda went to Macmillan's to deliver the album in person, the person that had ordered this, and ended up speaking to someone who was in the religious department of Macmillan Publishing, and they were lacking Bhagavad Gita from an authorized source. So this was actually the start of book distribution also. To the right side, we have Krishna Meditations. This top picture is a picture of Srila Prabhupada listening to the first playback of this album. You can see his meditation in this picture. This is the script on the bottom part of the Happening album. Again, the photograph of Srila Prabhupada that we see in the bottom, also the Happening album. On the left side, going down, we see the whole Radha Krishna Temple album, which after the devotees went to London, and George Harrison, they met with George Harrison and suggested they produce an album, which was really their intention the whole time, that somehow music would be produced. And they were a fully organized band, a kirtan band at that time, and met with George Harrison, and the album was cut in one take and for a lot of the songs that were done. And the devotees had the distinction of being the first group ever to record on Apple Records besides the Beatles. The middle one is a Govinda album with various cuts, Srila Prabhupada and devotees. And the far right one is produced in San Francisco. And this is, you will recognize this one. It's a very sweet album. It starts out with some tambura playing with Vishnu Jan. The lead is the tambura, and then Srila Prabhupada goes into Vandeham Shri Guru. You might have heard this. So this is this album. And it's written, the advertisement for the album is written in the language of the day, that all you need to sail the spiritual skies is our Guru A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami and this record. Again, the Radha Krishna Temple album. Here's the stairwell in Srila Prabhupada's, leading up to Srila Prabhupada's quarters, the face wall. This face wall picture here The picture on the top right, the top left, was done by Govindadasi. And this picture, there's one cowherd boy. There's a cowherd boy. You can see he's in back of the little dancing calf to the right side of Krishna. And he's a light complexion cowherd boy. Can you see him? Can you make him out? Anyway, when Govindadasi painted this picture, she painted Srila Prabhupada into the picture as that cowherd boy. And she later told Srila Prabhupada what she had done, what her intention was. And Srila Prabhupada didn't make any sign of disapproval over this. And in 1968, Harsharani had sent a poem, an offering to Srila Prabhupada that was published, that he asked to be published in Back to Godhead magazine. And the poem read like this, which Srila Prabhupada approved of. Dear Swamiji, I offer my respects unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who is always herding the cows of Goloka Vrindavan with his dearmost friend Krishna. Sometimes he is running barefoot through the forest, chasing cows, and sometimes he is hiding behind a tree, waiting for Krishna to return with the spoils from Mother Yasoda's butter pots. I offer my respects unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who is always thinking of what he can do in service to his dearmost friend Krishna, and never wanting anything in return. The lower picture is one of Srila Prabhupada in the garden, reading a letter. I think we saw every town and village, recorded in San Francisco and in New York Temple. Interesting to note that when Srila Prabhupada's preaching reached Russia, he said, now this is every town and village. Did he say that? Did he make that comment? All right. Thank you. And also this picture that we're seeing here, we're missing the top part, so if you know anyone that has the backside to the album, they can donate it to Srila Prabhupada's quarters. There was an aspiring artist that came to visit Srila Prabhupada, and he looked around the room and he saw so many pictures of Krishna, and they all looked different. They were, different artists' drawings of Krishna and paintings, and so he asked Srila Prabhupada, which is the real Krishna? Which one is the real Krishna? And Srila Prabhupada said, all of them. And then he paused for a moment and he pointed to this picture and he said, this is Krishna. This was redone by BBT, but it's a very old India print. And there are manjaris that are peeking through the bushes at Radha and Krishna. Here we're up in the top of the stairwell in Srila Prabhupada's quarters. When Srila Prabhupada acquired this property, he went through the upstairs rooms and designated which room should be used for what. And a bathroom was built on the top floor that was not there. And Bhavananda, who did some of the decorating, of course, he remembered that Srila Prabhupada had commented that his Mullock family home used the colors of blue and gold, which you'll see in Srila Prabhupada's quarters. So now we'll go into outside of Srila Prabhupada's darshan room. These are the dates that he came here to Los Angeles. And now we'll enter and have darshan of Srila Prabhupada in his room. So Srila Prabhupada, everything that you see here is situated as it is. Locations have not been changed of his desk, of where he sits and translates. in front of the window. The windows that you see here, some of the devotees would go in the early morning hours, and they would, when Srila Prabhupada was chanting japa and walking back and forth in front of the windows, they would be down in the alley below, and they would watch Srila Prabhupada as he passed by the windows. And Nari Hari says that he brought his mother to have this window darshan of Srila Prabhupada down in the alley, and she became a devotee. She became a devotee from this darshan. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would wave to the devotees. So here you see in his room pictures, and we'll go around the room and talk about everything that's here in this room. BBT paintings. There's only one painting in all of the rooms, besides a photograph, that is not a BBT painting, and I'll tell you when we come to that. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. This is Srila Prabhupada's view as he sits at his desk. Another view of the altar. If you haven't gotten a chance to visit Srila Prabhupada's quarters today, they were decorated very nicely by Jagadambika Dasi and her crew. So this is decorations from today's. To the left side of the altar is Radha Parasishwara. A devotee came and gifted this picture to Srila Prabhupada. This is the only BBT painting that is in his room, the only one that is not a BBT painting in Srila Prabhupada's room. You can see the Radha Krishna intertwined stance, and it was painted by V.H. Pandya in 1966. It's acrylic on board, and I've Googled online and found other pictures of this artist also. Very sweet attention to detail in his paintings, and it's very important because this is the picture that is in Srila Prabhupada's direct line of vision. Srila Prabhupada with his godbrothers. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. This mudra that his fingertips of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, his fingertips touching the ground. This is a mudra that means what is being spoken is truth. The fingertips touch the ground. This is on one side of Srila Prabhupada as he sits at his desk. And in the back we have some pencil drawings that were done by devotees. These are not photographs, these are pencil drawings. The top one was done by Nischintya Dasi, and this was her first attempt. She was taking art classes, and it was her first attempt at drawing using a grid method. And she presented the picture to Srila Prabhupada, and he said, "Photo?" And she said, "No, Srila Prabhupada, I drew this." And he commented that he liked this. This is very nice. Yes, yes. I'm stuck. Stuck. Mm. Oh, here it went. These are replacement deities on the top shelf of the altar, the top table of the altar. And Radha and Krishna deities were there at different times, and these are replacement deities. I'm told by Rabindranath that the deities that were there, Srila Prabhupada gave to one devotee lady and said, "Now Srila Prabhupada is your," sorry, he said, Srila Prabhupada told her, "Now Krishna is your husband." These are Gaura and Nitai plaster of Paris deities that were made by the Mexican devotees, presented to Srila Prabhupada here in his quarters. And the devotees, when these were presented to Srila Prabhupada, he said, the Gaura and Nitai deities should be distributed like dolls. People go to places and they collect dolls from all over the world. And if we have some Hare Krishna dolls, and you can distribute these just like you do books, these dolls, people will come, they'll put them on their shelf, and you write a little note and say, if you take care of me, I'll take care of you. So one day someone will ask, well, how do I take care of them? And he said this would be the beginning of the devotional service. There was some discussion after that, well, Prabhupada, if everyone has deities in their home, then everyone will be involved with that, and the deities in the temple will be neglected, become secondary, and Srila Prabhupada said that the worship of the deity of the temple is more important than the worship of the deity at home. And here on the left, on this side of the room, we have a very large picture. Jai Shri Gaura Nitai. Rukmini Dwarkadish, Shri Jagannath Baladev, Subhadra Ki Jai. Just as we're speaking of Gaura and Nitai, they appear. We have this picture of Radha and Krishna on the swing. This was painted by devotee Devahuti. She was older devotee than the others, younger 20-year-old. She was 40-something. And Srila Prabhupada told her that she would go back to Godhead for painting this picture. This was also the cover of Nectar of Devotion, our very first Nectar Devotion. A globe. Srila Prabhupada had a globe in many of his rooms where he would stay, and he would turn the globe and make plans for his conquest of the world. He would point to some place, and this devotee was going to go there, and then he would point to another place and make plans for his worldly expansion. Now we're coming into Srila Prabhupada's bedroom. These are the rooms that Prabhupada designated, one to be the darshan room, one to be the bedroom, and another one is called the sun room. It has a skylight. But here is Srila Prabhupada's bedroom. He asked that the bed be placed in this position against this wall. And it's a small bed. It's a twin bed. You can see that sleeping was not the biggest part of Srila Prabhupada's life. The bookcase that's on the left side has a lot of Srila Prabhupada's personal belongings that are now on display. As the room is decorated now for this occasion, you can see Prabhupada on the right at his desk translating. Srila Prabhupada's shoes, the foot of the bed. In this corner, the picture that's in the rocking chair is Srila Prabhupada sitting in this rocking chair in this corner with the rug that's on the floor at his feet, and the picture that is on the wall behind him in the picture also. This picture of dancing Gaura and Nitai was done by Govinda Dasi. They were the worshipable deities in Honolulu and McKinley Street. Before the deities, the Gaura and Nitai deities arrived, devotees would bathe them in meditation and garland them every day. And when Srila Prabhupada, when the deities came to Hawaii, Srila Prabhupada asked if this picture could come to Los Angeles with him. Stuck. Kartamashayi, boy Krishna. He stands with one hand on his hip, and he's considered to be, where did we go? I think we're out of sequence here. Okay. This picture is above Srila Prabhupada's bed, Radha and Krishna on a lotus. Nectar devotion picture painted by Devahuti. Srila Prabhupada's shoes at the foot of his bed. Kartamasha, boss child, the youngest one in the family. You can see he's got an attitude with his hand on his hip, ready to tell everyone what to do, as the youngest child in the family usually does. Srila Prabhupada clock. Radha, Kaliya, Krishna dancing in the hoods of Kaliya, serpent. This was presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a picture of Srila Prabhupada getting his feet, his feet are being bathed in this bowl, in this temple, here in this situation. Corner of the room where Srila Prabhupada would take prasadam. Probably was a common for Srila Prabhupada to take prasadam facing a wall and not speaking. There was, Guru Das tells one story that when he came here to Los Angeles to visit Srila Prabhupada, he brought with him some slides, and he was showing them to Srila Prabhupada in a little viewfinder, and when he was in the middle of showing Srila Prabhupada the pictures, prasadam came for lunchtime. Prasadam came for Srila Prabhupada, and Guru Das said, "Should I discontinue? Should we do this again later?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "No, I can do two things at once." And so Guru Das would load the viewfinder and hold it up to Srila Prabhupada's eye, and while he was taking prasadam. An anniversary clock, very common in the 50s. It's an anniversary because usually it's a wedding present clock that would be wound once a year on the anniversary of the wedding. And the little pendulum motions inside keep the clock running. BBT painting. A lot of the BBT paintings were done by a collection of artists. If someone was particularly good with flowers, they would do that. If another was good with figures, they would do that. And these are charming Krishna book paintings. And this style, and we might think it's a little unschooled, but Srila Prabhupada was very proud of his artists and these paintings that he did. Krishna, he's going to flip the elephant Kuvalaya Pita over. Rasa dance. This was done by Devahuti. She presented this picture to Srila Prabhupada, and his first comment was, "They look too old." So she chubbied out their faces a little bit and made them look younger, and this met with Srila Prabhupada's approval. But you can see Devahuti's style is attention to detail, and there's so much going on. The peacocks looking back at the rasa dance, and up underneath the moon, the demigods have come to view the rasa dance. Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra. These deities were carved by a devotee named Bahubrahan, and at the other devotee's insistence, he gave them to Srila Prabhupada. He thought, "No, I made them, I can't give them to Srila Prabhupada." And they would say, no, you've got to give them to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada is very pleased with them, and he asks that they be set up in his quarters against the wall that they are underneath the rasa dance picture, and in his bedroom. Nrsingadev deity that came later, and looking back into Srila Prabhupada's darshan room, we see an electric organ, very common in homes in the 50s. Hammond organs, who didn't have one in their home or want one? Everybody. This was given to Srila Prabhupada. He did play it. Lord Brahma, contemplating how he was, what he could do, and you can see the mischief has already started. The cows are retreating into the forest, and he's set out to steal the cows and the cowherd boys. And to the right is Sudama, the florist, giving Krishna flower garlands as he enters Mathura. This Sudama florist picture is Nectar Devotion, and Lord Brahma stealing the cows is Krishna book. Devahuti was the artist of this picture also. Cabinet with Srila Prabhupada's belongings. In the top right corner, there's some clothing of Srila Prabhupada's, a silk shirt that has pearl buttons. Bhavananda was insisted that the shirt have pearl buttons, and he says that Madhavisa was tearing his sika out till he finally gave him the money for the buttons. The shirt had pearl buttons, has pearl buttons down the front, and also the Prabhupada hat underneath the chin has a pearl button. Bhavananda found some upholstery fabric that was very shimmery, saffron, beautiful saffron. And when he laid out Srila Prabhupada's clothes for him for the Rath Yatra, for him to wear what he had selected and given to Srila Prabhupada to wear, Srila Prabhupada saw the cloth, the shiny cloth, and he said, "As you dress me, so shall I dance." On one side of the case is Krishna contemplating the situation with the cowherd boys entering the mouth of Aghasura demon, and Keshi demon being killed in this picture. In this location on the right side of the case, the display case, there was a picture of Krishna and Balaram having their way with the donkeys, flinging them up into the tall trees. And one devotee was peeking into the room, and Srila Prabhupada was standing in front of this picture, and he made a mimicking motion like this of swinging, 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 faster, faster, and then he let go and he walked away. Now we're entering Srila Prabhupada's darshan room. This is the sunroom. He would sit under the skylight here and take his massage. On the wall we have a picture of Jagannath Das Babaji, painted by Saradiya, and picture of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada's harmonium, and trunk that Srila Prabhupada would use traveling to different temples. It was an instant office. Everything that he needed was in the trunk. He would open the trunk, put a cover on it, and sit at the trunk and begin translating. There's a San Francisco custom sticker on the inside of the trunk indicating that that was the port of entry for this trunk. This was painted by Devahuti, Krishna and Balaram begging foodstuffs from the wives of the Brahmins. Again, the attention to detail and the dancing calves, and everyone is paying attention. The birds, the cows, everyone has their attention focused on Krishna and Balaram. This is a display of some of the medicines that were left here in Los Angeles from Srila Prabhupada's visits. On the bottom, in the middle, you see there's something for toothache pain. And there is a story that Srila Prabhupada, when he was here, he had a toothache. And the devotees, after Srila Prabhupada left for the airport, devotees went to his quarters. Sometimes they would go to find out what kind of nectar was left behind, some fruits, something that Srila Prabhupada had touched. And on the bathroom sink, they found Srila Prabhupada's tooth. On the middle shelf in the far left is a mortar and pestle. There is a medicine that Srila Prabhupada took called Jogendra Ras. It was gold and pearls mixed together with honey, and it was mixed in the mortar and pestle. And Srila Prabhupada would lick the bowl clean and the pestle also to get, not to waste any of the medicines. Srila Prabhupada painted by Pushkara a lotus seed here that used to be pink satin. And above the picture, we see Damodar, who we're celebrating at this time of the month. Bound by his mother's ropes, he pulled the grinding mortar between the two trees and freed the sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nala Kuvera. BBT painting, painted by various artists. We're at the end of the pictures. I have a few more stories about some articles that are in Srila Prabhupada's display case. There was a Noralco shaver on the bottom shelf of the display case that I asked Shruti Kirti if Srila Prabhupada ever actually used an electric razor, and he said 99% probably not. He said Prabhupada didn't like things that made noise. In fact, one time Shruti Kirti, was using an electric razor in Los Angeles in the servants' quarters, which was at the end of the hall, and Srila Prabhupada had someone go find out what the noise was. Srila Prabhupada had old school brush and soap and would shave. Sureshwara tells the story that Srila Prabhupada was traveling and his usual razor wasn't packed with him. And as Prabhupada was attempting to shave, he kept looking at some adjustment that was there in his usual razor. And Prabhupada pointed, and Sureshwara said, "No, Srila Prabhupada, it's not Gillette. It's no dial." Prabhupada said, "No dial?" And he said, "No, not Gillette." And Prabhupada said, "Not Gillette?" And he took the razor and he tossed it. And it landed, he said it floated through the air and landed on the shelf, and Prabhupada said, "Simply bogus." Gillette. So I hope that you've enjoyed this slideshow of Srila Prabhupada's quarters. We thought that this time also would be a time for Srila Prabhupada's memories. So if anyone would like to come forward and tell a memory. Yes? Let me see how this is going to go.
Actually, I want to share this for you, Kriya-shakti, so you can use it for your next presentation. It's just a little bit of history about this particular temple. Recently, I've been in touch with Gargamuni Prabhu in Vrindavan, so he's the one who filled me on the details, which actually very few of us really know. So I thought you might be interested in knowing the history of this temple. So Gargamuni was looking around. Gargamuni was looking around for a new place to live, and the reason actually they left La Cienega is, and I didn't know that, and very few devotees actually know that, is because right next to the temple on La Cienega, they opened a burger joint, and the smell was abominable, so there's no way they could continue living there. So Gagamuni looked around for a while, and he found two property. This one, and the one up the street, there's another church there. So he brought Prabhupada down, and Srila Prabhupada, believe it or not, actually picked the other one up the street. That's the one he chose. He liked it. So Gagamuni said, Srila Prabhupada, there's no way, we have 100 devotees. There's no way we're all going to fit in there. So Prabhupada considered it, said, okay, you're right, so we're going to take this one. So when he came here, besides the quarters up there, he personally picked what each room was going to be. He decided what every single room, what we're going to do. This, like we said, was the hall, and what he wanted here is to leave the pews, because he said the people in the West, they're not used to sit on the floor. That's Indian culture. So he said, we're going to leave the pews, we're going to open the doors on Sunday, we're going to let people come in with their shoes. And so they agreed to that. The museum was a temple room, and, you know, across the street where the ashram is right now, that used to be a school. So they felt it was very appropriate to have an ashram for all the devotees. So, as she mentioned, and the photos, the organ was there, and Vishnu John would play where Srila Prabhupada would give the class. So what happened is that Gagamuni is the one who had a spiritual sky business, and he gave $60,000. He put the money down to get this property. So he thought it was a good idea to actually, they had beautiful stained glass in here with Jesus and, you know, Christian symbols and everything. And he wanted to take everything down because, you know, we're devotees, right? And Prabhupada said, no, not at all. He said, they're beautiful, we're going to leave them there. Open the door on Sunday, let her come in with their shoes. Leave everything because it's familiar to them. So you can see how Srila Prabhupada was extremely accommodating and understanding. So they did that. And then Jaya Tirtha Prabhu at the time also joined, loaded with LSD, and Prabhupada said he was really crazy. So Prabhupada gave him a direct instruction to, he said, you're going to take care of him for 1 week and you let him chant Hare Krishna out loud 24 hours a day. So Gagamuni did that. So while he was packing incense for him, he made him chant out loud Hare Krishna the whole day. And every time, kind of like he would stop, he said, chant, chant. So he would chant Hare Krishna for 1 week completely out loud. And after 1 week, believe it or not, he totally settled down, he became normal. So Prabhupada knew the remedy for him. That was so amazing. So unfortunately, after a little while, Jayaditha is the one who had the ingenious idea to just go against Srila Prabhupada's plan, tear off, you know, all the pews, make this a temple room, and, you know, switch everything around. Actually, when Srila Prabhupada heard about that, he was very, very angry and very upset. So I'm just praying today, Srila Prabhupada, on his disappearance day, that we can all, thank you, have the courage and the willingness to give Srila Prabhupada what he wants, not what we want to. So, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Well, Los Angeles is also a special place for me because, to begin, Srila Prabhupada initiated me here. He was here, and I was in Boston. And actually I wanted, but at that time he was in the La Cienega temple. Now someday I'd like someone to take me there to see where he chanted on my beads and gave me my initiation letter. And only one other time did I come here when Srila Prabhupada was here. At the time I'd become sick in Bombay. And finally Srila Prabhupada said that as long as I stay in Bombay, I won't be able to get better. And Srila Prabhupada had said that I should, I never made the connection, but even earlier, and I won't tell that story now, I don't think, Srila Prabhupada said that I should eat, I guess I have to tell the story. So I was in Calcutta, and my parents came to visit me. And their real purpose was to get me to come back to America. But there were different aspects to it. But my mother was really concerned about my health. And in those days, many people had the idea that if you didn't eat meat, you wouldn't get enough protein. So she was very concerned that I get enough protein. And anyway, she was hoping that the meeting would end with me coming back, and in the end it didn't happen like that. So she started to cry, and then Srila Prabhupada had his sister, Pishima, put some sandesh in my mother's hand, and my father, and Prabhupada said these are made of cheese, and they're very rich in protein. Okay. So then he said to me, Giriraj, you should eat 24 rasgulla and sandesh every day. That's an order. I mean, he didn't say it. That's my commentary. So then, later on in Bombay, when I got sick, Srila Prabhupada said, as long as I stay in Bombay, I won't be able to get better. And at that time, so just before leaving, I got up enough strength to visit Srila Prabhupada in his room where he was staying. And Srila Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Goswami, who was the GBC, that that Giriraj is going to go to Los Angeles now, and Karandar will give him rasgullas, which you could not do. So I came, and I was really quite sick. I was staying downstairs, so one day I remember in particular, Hridayananda Das Goswami's mother came. And I happened to be in Srila Prabhupada's room. And Srila Prabhupada was saying, he started to tell the story of Kapila Dev and Devahuti. And I felt that the language would have been quite foreign for her. But then he made the point that generally the parents instruct the children, but if the son is more advanced in spiritual knowledge, he can instruct the mother. And he gave the example of Kapila Dev and Devahuti. And he said, your son is very intelligent. And she said, yes, Howard always was a good student. She was, I think they were, anyway, that was her understanding of his intelligence. Which, yeah. And there are so many things happened. My sister came. Well, it was like a big thing after I'd been in India for 3 years. I came back to America and I was here recovering. And it was in the old temple where the Fate Museum is now. And they had, some of these nice pictures, and there was one of Krishna and the cows. And somehow, my sister just, she just got it. I mean, she just got it, and so I said, this is Krishna, this is God. And she said, has Prabhupada seen Krishna? And I said, yes. She said, oh my God. It's like, so she was staying with some devotees in the community, and she was, very attracted. And then my parents came, and they thought they already lost me. They thought, she's on the verge of being lost. So it was sort of the plan we'd all be together here, but they sort of took her away to some Long Beach or some resort, some holiday place, and had an unscheduled vacation. And then they came back, and it was a big thing. My uncle came, all from Chicago. So my uncle was a medical doctor, and he came to meet Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, he was like very, my uncle was very idealistic. He was very concerned about the fact that doctors were so materialistic. And he was just pouring his heart out to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada was just listening with great sympathy. I think in the whole conversation, which might have lasted 20 minutes, Srila Prabhupada said only a couple of sentences. He was just listening.